everyone. It's time for Chapter 3 of Carnival at Candlelight by Mary Pope Osborne, with illustrations done by Sal Murdocha. Do you remember what happened in yesterday's chapter? Let's find out what's going to happen today with Jack and Annie on their wonderful adventure in Venice, a place where there aren't streets but waterways to travel. Do you remember the word gondola? It's the boat that goes on top of the water. And the gondolier is the person that directs the boat. Let's see what happens today. The gondola glided toward a landing at the edge of the canal. As the gondolier tied up the boat, water was sloshing from the canal onto a wide walkway filled with carnival goers. The gondolier reached a gloved hand toward Annie and helped her out of the boat. He then held out a hand to Jack. When Jack grabbed it, he was surprised that the gondolier's hand felt small under the white glove, like a kid's hand. As soon as Jack had stepped out of the boat, the gondolier untied the rope, pushed off from the landing, and began rowing away. "Bye, thanks," called Annie. The two strangers in the white bird masks waved. Jack and Annie watched the gondola disappear over the choppy waters. Then they looked back at the shore. The carnival crowd was parading up and down the wide walkway along the canal. "Hey, look," said Annie, "there's a bunch of people dressed like us and like the two people in the gondola." Jack saw lots of black cloaks, bird masks, funny hats, and ruffled collars. He also saw people dressed as chickens and pirates and knights. None of the costumed people seemed to mind the water spilling over the edge of the canal, soaking their boots and their slippers. As Jack and Annie stared at the crowd, a distant bell began to ring. The bell rang 9 times. "I guess that means it's 9 o'clock," said Jack. Just then another bell began to chime, and Jack counted again. This time 10 chimes rang out. 10, said Jack, puzzled. "So what time is it, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock? "Don't worry about that now," said Annie. "I think I see the grand lady of the lagoon." "Where?" said Jack. Annie pointed to a tall woman at the edge of the parade. She was wearing a black mask. She wore piles of jewelry, a white wig, and a wide hoop skirt. Jack and Annie moved toward the lady. "Excuse me," said Annie. "Hi." The lady looked at Annie. "Hello," she said in a deep man's voice. "Whoa," said Jack, stepping back. Annie laughed. "You're a man," she said. "Of course, but for Carnival, I am a very beautiful lady, no?" said the man. "We're looking for someone called the Grand Lady of," started Annie, but before she could finish, a giant chicken grabbed the man's hand and pulled him away into the crowd. "Oh, brother," said Jack, looking around. "Lots of people were dressed as grand ladies. How are we supposed to know who to visit?" "Maybe it's time to use one of Kathleen and Teddy's rhymes," said Annie. "No, we should save our rhymes," said Jack. "Then let's just skip visiting the Grand Lady of the Lagoon for now. What's the next thing that Merlin tells us to do?" Jack looked at Merlin's directions and read aloud. "To find out where you need to go, seek out a painter named Tipolo." "Good, that's clear," said Jack. "Let's see if Tipolo is in our research book." As the noisy crowd celebrated around them, Jack pulled out the book. He stood near a lantern and looked in the index. "He's here," said Jack. He turned to the right page and read, "Tipolo, say Tiepolo." Oh, I'm saying it wrong. Tiepolo. Tiepolo was one of the greatest painters of Venice in the 1700s. He painted bright, beautiful oil paintings for palaces and villas. "If the guy's so famous, people must know where he lives," said Annie. Excuse me," she called to a clown walking by. "Can you tell us where the painter Tiepolo lives?" "Near the church of San Felice," the clown said. "Thanks," said Annie. "But you won't find him home now," the clown called over his shoulder. "He's in Milan painting." "Where's that?" shouted Jack. "Over a day's ride on horseback," said the clown. Then he disappeared into the crowd. Said Annie. Do you think Merlin wants us to go to Milan? We don't have time, said Jack. I think we have to skip Tiepolo, too. Yeah, said Annie. Hey, maybe we should just skip all of this stuff and just try to find the ruler of the seas on our own. Our letter says he's the only one who can help us save the grand lady. I don't know, said Jack. In his letter, Merlin tells us to be patient. But Annie was already calling to pirates passing by. Sir, do you know where we can find the ruler of the seas? What? Shouted the pirate. The ruler! Do you know where he lives? Yelled Annie. In the palace on St. Mark's Square, said the pirate. Where's that? Annie called. But the pirate had disappeared into the crowd. I'll look up St. Mark's Square, said Jack. He turned the pages of their book until he came to a map of Venice. Oh, cool, he said. Jack loved maps. Okay, let's see. Jack said, we're here. He pointed to the walkway along the canal on the map, and we want to go to St. Mark's Square. He pointed to another place on the map. It's really close. Yeah, and it looks like everyone else is headed there too, said Annie. Come on. So if we go this way, said Jack. He traced their route with his finger. Come on, Jack, called Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was already walking with the crowd. Jack closed the book and hurried after her. Soon they came to a huge open square. Wow, said Jack breathlessly. St. Mark's Square was filled with candlelight and musicians. Acrobats balanced on tight ropes, boxers boxed in a ring, knights fenced with swords, clowns walked on tall stilts, raced wheelbarrows, and tried to catch live eels in their mouths. All around the square were candle-lit buildings. Venice is beautiful, said Annie. Yes, said Jack. He looked back at their book. He found an illustration of St. Mark's Square. Jack read the description of the buildings. The watchtower of St. Mark's Square is the tallest building in Venice. The weather vane on top once helped sailors by showing them which way the wind was blowing. Jack looked up. I can barely see the weather vane up there, but I think it's pointing north, so the wind must be blowing from the south. What about the ruler's palace? Where's that? Asked Annie. Jack read on. The clock tower is one of the most beautiful towers in the world. On top of the tower, a bell is struck every hour by... Jack! Skip to the ruler's palace, interrupted Annie. Please. Okay, said Jack. He read about the palace. The Palace of Venice's ruler is one of the most splendid structures ever built. It has a great hall where as many as 2,000 nobles once met to discuss city matters. It also holds the city's grim prison cells. Above the palace door is a sculpture of Saint Mark, showing a book to a winged lion. There's the palace door, said Annie. Jack looked up from the map. Annie was heading toward a huge door with the sculpture of a man and a winged lion above it. Jack closed the book and hurried to catch up to her. A guard was standing by the palace door. The guard wore a uniform and held a rifle. Wait, Jack whispered. Is he a real guard, or is that just a costume? I'll find out, said Annie. She walked over to the guard. Excuse me, sir, is the ruler of Venice inside the palace now? Begone, clown, the guard said gruffly. But it's important, said Annie. We need to talk to him about something. I said begone, the guard growled. I am tired of clowns wasting my time. She's not really a clown, said Jack, coming forward. We're on a mission. We go, both of you, or else. He held up his rifle. He's definitely not wearing a costume, thought Jack. Okay, sorry, said Jack. He and Annie moved away from the palace entrance. What a grouchy guy, said Annie. He'll never let us in, said Jack. Maybe it's time to use one of Teddy and Kathleen's rhymes, said Annie. Maybe we should turn into ducks. The guard wouldn't mind if a couple of ducks... No, said Jack. We have to save our rhymes. Well, how will we get inside? Annie asked. Patience, said Jack. Remember? Before he could finish, Annie broke in. Hey, look! 2 clowns on stilts were dancing around the guard. One grabbed the guard's rifle and tossed it to the other. Hey, "Hey, give that back," the guard yelled. "Now's our chance, said Annie. Quick!" She ran to the entrance and slipped through the door. "Oh, no, oh, man," said Jack, while the guard chased after the two clowns on stilts. Jack rushed to the doorway of the palace and slipped inside, too. Very exciting things here. I hope they don't get in trouble. Tune in tomorrow for Chapter 4, which is called Rats. I hope they don't mean real rats. I'm scared of them. See you next time. Bye.